Hello. Isn't it fascinating how the quietest rooms echo the loudest screams? Because that's where they are now, in silence. And not because they've found peace, but because they're studying the very thing they used to mock. You see, they called it a failure. They laughed, loud and public, your name in their mouths like venom they thought they were immune to. They pointed when you fell. But now, they're breaking down the footage of how you hit the floor, because they're trying to figure out how you got back up like that. No announcement, no explanation, no apology, just ascension. Funny, huh? What they once circulated in group chats as proof you were broken has now become the blueprint for their salvation. And they hate it. They hate that they need it. They hate that it was you. Because that thing they mocked you for, that move they called unprofessional, embarrassing, reckless, they're copying it, pixel for pixel, and whispering about it like it's some kind of divine download. But they'll never say your name out loud, because that would mean they'd have to admit you were right. They don't want the world to know, but you invented the map they're now using to escape their own mediocrity. Oh, the irony. They gave your failure a funeral, held a service, buried it in ridicule. But what they didn't realize is, you weren't the corpse. You were the storm system brewing underground, a blueprint disguised as a breakdown, a resurrection coded in humiliation. You bled, but you documented. You suffered, but you learned. You shattered and took notes during the collapse. And when no one believed in your rebuild, you rebuilt in a way they couldn't decode. And now, they're watching your old wounds like tutorials, rewinding your breakdowns frame by frame, trying to extract formula from pain, trying to reverse engineer your scars into their survival guide. But guess what? They'll never get it right, because they don't know what it cost you to make those mistakes look like moves. They don't understand the price of becoming the paradox, the fool who was the oracle, the reject who was the revelation, the broken one who became the blueprint. You didn't just survive failure, you weaponized it. And now every boardroom, every back room, every strategy meeting they host is haunted by you. You're the ghost in their systems, the unnamed reference in every stolen idea, the invisible ink in their original work. And they're panicking, not because you failed, but because your failure turned prophetic. You didn't fall off, you fell forward, into something they never prepared for. A version of you that doesn't ask for validation, but punishes them for ever thinking you needed it. They don't know whether to hate you, fear you, or be you. So instead they choose denial, silent imitation, covert praise. But you hear it, in the way they suddenly adopt your language, in the way they mimic your posture, in the way they start quoting ideas they used to crucify. They're hoping the world doesn't notice, that the same thing they tried to delete has now become the template for their entire survival. But you noticed, and now so will everyone else, because here's the truth they can't escape. The masterpiece they're now copying in silence was built out of the ashes they laughed at. And deep down, they know the original can't be recreated, because while they were busy mocking, you were mutating. While they were gossiping, you were grieving and grinding in the dark. While they were throwing dirt on your name, you were planting roots beneath the surface. And now you're blooming in places they can't reach. Thorns first. You became a lesson they never wanted to learn, but now they can't stop referencing. The proof that being underestimated is just step one of becoming unkillable. They called it failure, but that was just the prelude. What they didn't see, what they couldn't comprehend, was that you had a plan hidden inside the chaos, a masterstroke disguised as a meltdown. So now, they sit in silence, not because they've grown, but because they're reprogramming themselves in your image, trying to replicate what they once ridiculed, trying to build themselves out of the debris they thought would bury you. But blueprints don't come with spirit. They can copy the lines, but they'll never replicate the soul. Because you didn't just build something powerful. You became the warning, the glitch, the prophecy fulfilled, the ghost they summoned and can't unsummon now. They called it a failure, but now it's their religion, and you're the uncredited god they're praying to in silence. Welcome to the blueprint, designed by your downfall, powered by pain, and studied by the same fools who swore you'd never make it. Now let them drown in the silence they chose, because while they whisper, you walk, louder than ever. Proof that failure isn't the end. It's the launch protocol, and they're still buffering. Oh, but you thought that was the end of it. No. That was just the prologue. Because what they really can't process, what's eating away at their spine like acid, is the fact that your so-called failure wasn't even your final form. You bled in front of them. You malfunctioned publicly. They called it a glitch. But what they didn't know was you were running a system update, and they just documented your transformation, thinking it was death. They shared the footage. They clipped it. They laughed at it. They forwarded it like a virus. But what they forgot is that some viruses evolve, and this one coded itself into their firmware. Now their whole operating system, their business, their persona, their fucking identity, is unknowingly running on your DNA, and you say nothing. Because why would a storm explain itself? To the people who tried to measure it with a thermometer, you're the ghost in their code, the specter in the silence. The how did he do that? The why doesn't mine hit the same? They don't understand that you didn't perform your way into power. You suffered your way into it. And no imitation can replicate that. Because while they're busy copying your style, you are creating your next catastrophe, your next evolution, your next blueprint. And they're still studying the old one. Like archaeologists trying to decode thunder from fossils. You didn't ask for permission. You didn't fit the algorithm. You broke it. You walked into the system like a virus with a smile and turned their rule book into a joke. And now, they're holding secret meetings about your old moves. They're consulting experts who still can't explain how you're breathing after what they saw. They're holding closed-door conversations about you and calling it strategy. You are topic number one in rooms you're not even in. And the worst part? They can't monetize you. They can't license you. They can't contain you. You're not a brand. You're a phenomenon, a glitch that became a god, a broken thing that rewrote reality. And they hate that they need your failure just to stay relevant. You walk past them now, and their faces go pale. Because they remember the version of you they buried. And now that you're standing tall, they realize they were never ready for the resurrection. You didn't just survive. You documented your death and leaked it as a trailer. So now every time they scroll, you're there. In the sound, in the style, in the attitude. You became the template they'll never admit they downloaded. And yet, they keep studying. Because deep down, they know the truth. There was no blueprint until you broke. You were the one who gave failure a structure. You were the one who gave collapse a syntax. You were the one who took pain and turned it into a F-seeking operating manual. And now that the system's on fire, They're trying to trace it back to you, but they'll never be able to recreate it. Because what they don't understand is that you didn't build this with talent. You built it with suffering, with confusion, with rejection, with nights so dark they tried to put a timestamp on your extinction. But you kept breathing, you kept mutating, you kept learning in the dark, becoming something unnatural, something outside their algorithm. And now, your existence is their contradiction, their worst-case scenario with a heartbeat. The reminder that the thing they laughed at is now running laps around them, silently, relentlessly, without a single sorry. You were never their peer, you were their punishment. They had the chance to study you with respect. Instead, they tried to dissect you with arrogance. And now they're begging for your mistakes to make sense, trying to decode your collapse like a crime scene, because something in them knows you didn't just fail. You transformed, you absorbed it, you burned it, you filed it away, and turned it into the very thing they're now addicted to watching. They called it a failure, but it was the blueprint for immortality. And now they can't unsee it, they can't unlearn it, they can't outperform it. And you're already building the next one, in silence, unbothered, untouchable. And they'll have to study that one too, just like the last. Because you don't follow blueprints anymore. You bleed them, you live them, you are them. And the joke? It's still on them. Because the joke they never saw coming was that the failure they laughed at was scripted, not by chance, not by luck, but by a mind so many floors beneath theirs they mistook it for brokenness. They thought the chaos was a collapse. They thought the detour was a dead end. They thought the screaming silence was surrender. But what they missed, what their ego refused to comprehend, was that you were conducting the entire downfall like a symphony, tapping into depths they never dared enter, mapping territory so dark it burned away your innocence and forged something mythic in its place. They thought your silence meant defeat, but it was just the reverb before detonation. They thought you were licking wounds, but you were sharpening weapons. They thought the scars were ugly, but those were the runes of power. Because that's what failure really is, isn't it? It's the testing ground for the invincible. The graveyard where the gods bury their old selves to make room for something worse. Something wilder, something unrecognizable. They can't decode you anymore. Your moves don't track. Your strategy doesn't follow market logic. Your evolution makes no sense in their textbooks, because you burned those books when they threw you into exile. And now you speak in symbols, in paradoxes, in frequencies only those who've been crucified correctly can hear. You're no longer a person to them. You're a myth they accidentally created. A whispered warning passed from boardroom to back alley. Watch out for the one who failed loud and survived quiet. Don't trigger the one who codes chaos into commandments. That one doesn't fall like the rest. And the reason they whisper? Because to speak your name too loud is to summon the reality that they were wrong. Dead wrong. About you. About what it takes. About what survival actually looks like when you're not performing for applause, but adapting like a virus in real time. They studied perfection, you studied collapse. They studied trends, you studied what happens after the lights go out. They studied dominance, you studied humiliation, failure, isolation, rage, revenge, and alchemy. You didn't just build a comeback, you built a curse, a boomerang of energy so dark, so encrypted in shame and memory and blood, that every time they try to replicate, your path. They bleed in the wrong places. They tried to wear your scars like tattoos, but scars only hold power when they're earned through fire. And you burned, longer, hotter, deeper than they'll ever comprehend. So now they roam, soulless little clones, wearing your discarded skin like it's couture, but wondering why they can't access the magic, why their version of your failure doesn't lead to resurrection, why they're still stuck in the blueprint stage, while you've already moved on to building the storm. Because that's the punchline, isn't it? You didn't just write the blueprint, you outgrew it. You made version 1.0 from your ashes, but version 2.0? That's being coded in shadow. And while they're still decrypting your past pain, you're already embedding new anomalies into their system. And those anomalies, they'll never understand them, because they weren't born from study. They were born from the abyss, from your own execution and rebirth. You're no longer here to explain. You're here to haunt, to glitch their assumptions, to remind them with your every step that what they fear most isn't your strength. It's that you were never supposed to make it. And yet, you did. Not clean, not pretty, not market ready, but real, raw, ruthless. And now, your very existence is a weapon. You walk into rooms and shift the molecular structure, because your presence says what your enemies won't, that you survived the worst thing they ever hoped would destroy you, and came back, reformatted, unreadable to unkillable and unapologetic. They said you failed. You say, I upgraded. And the system? It's still catching up. And that's when you start to see it clearly. Their faces, their eyes, how they can't even look at you straight anymore. Because deep down, they're terrified of the thing they built by accident. The monster they mocked into existence. Every hallway you walk into now feels like a crime scene. They go quiet, they shuffle papers, they hide their screens. But you can smell it in the air. They're running your code while pretending it's theirs. They're still talking like they invented it, but you hear your own words echoing back at you, distorted, like a voice note sent through a dozen hands. And you smile. Because you remember how it felt when they called you crazy, when they told you to stop, when they swore you'd ruined everything. You remember the nights you spent face down on the floor, no applause, no plan, just pain. How you swallowed the humiliation until it tasted like iron. How you stared into the dark long enough that the dark began to shape you. And that's where you learned the first real law. Failure is only fatal if you stop mutating. You didn't just take the hits. You mapped them. You stored the data. You wrote your own autopsy while you were still breathing. And then you stitched yourself back together with your own hands. That's why their imitation never lands. Because they're trying to copy a survival manual that was written in your blood. They're trying to mimic a ritual they never had the courage to endure. They think it's a style. They think it's a tactic. They think it's a trend. But you know the truth. It's a scar language. It's a dialect born in the dark, and only the broken ever become fluent. Now everywhere you go, you hear your own blueprints in their whispers. You see your own ghosts in their innovations. They've built entire empires on your mistakes. But the irony is, the blueprint they're using is obsolete. You've already moved on, while they're still reverse engineering your last collapse. You're designing a new one, a bigger one, a stranger one, a move they won't even be able to name. They're chasing your shadow, while you're already leaving the next set of footprints in places they'll never find. And that's the paradox they can't live with. The thing they called a failure wasn't a breakdown. It was a launch pad. It was a cocoon. It was you building an exit out of their entire reality. They can copy the steps, but they'll never replicate the metamorphosis, because they don't have the bruises, they don't have the sleepless nights, they don't have the memories of being laughed at, ostracized, silenced, doubted, crucified. They're not haunted enough to make it work. But you are. You carry every humiliation like a blade, every rejection like a wire in your circuitry, every so-called mistake like a map tattooed under your skin. That's why you're unpredictable. That's why you're dangerous. That's why they keep watching you out of the corners of their eyes and taking notes they'll never admit to taking. You are the walking evidence that failure isn't the end. It's the engine. It's the furnace. It's the dark laboratory where the next self is built. And now, while they copy the blueprint you left behind in ashes, you're already inside the next phase, silent, deliberate, untraceable. You don't announce. You don't warn. You just arrive, already transformed, and their whole plan collapses again. They called it a failure, but it was always the signal. And now they're tuned into a frequency they can't switch off. They're praying you don't release the next transmission, but you will. And when you do, they'll have no choice but to follow, in silence, pretending they don't know where it came from, even as it rewires them again. That's what they'll never understand. The blueprint was never about the lines. It was about the blood that drew them, and only you have that. Well. Look who's using classified moves in plain daylight like it's a party trick. Tell me, who gave you the file? Because that sequence you just pulled. That wasn't meant to be seen outside sealed rooms, behind blacked-out glass, guarded by men who forgot their real names. That wasn't just a move. That was a protocol, a controlled detonation, a God-level maneuver designed for when everything collapses. And you used it like a casual flex, in front of everyone, on the timeline, in the open, at full volume, like you wanted them to panic. You see, the moment you executed it, the temperature in those back rooms dropped 10 degrees. Screens froze, papers were snatched, cameras rewound. Because what you did wasn't just powerful, it was unauthorized. You weren't supposed to know it existed, and now that you've proved you do, they can't unsee it, can't unlearn it, can't unfeel the shift. They're whispering now, how the fuck does he know that? Who gave him access? Who breached protocol? But the answer, oh sweetheart, the answer is nobody gave you anything. You became the algorithm. You became the leak. You became the thing they thought they hid in shadows. But you birthed it out of your pain and made it dance in the sunlight. You want to know the real joke? They called it a classified tactic. But to you, it was instinct. To them, it's elite training. To you, it's survival. Because they had the blueprint. But you were the blood. They studied chaos in a lab. But you were raised in it, loved in it, broken in it, rebuilt by it. What they tried to simulate in simulations, you lived through. With your bones. With your scars. With your sleepless, violent nights where reality turned inside out and all you had left was strategy. And now? Now they're pulling surveillance from your past, reviewing everything you've ever done. Why? Because your last move looked military. But your story, its spiritual warfare, its ancestral fire, its divine retaliation, wrapped in human form, they think it was taught to you. But this isn't something you learn. This is something you become after they bury you alive and forget to check the coffin. You didn't study tactics. You became the countermeasure. You didn't download power. You resurrected it from your own ashes, and now you're standing in public, casually doing the unthinkable. They're calling it a glitch in the system, a breach in the timeline. But they know, deep down, they know. It wasn't a mistake, it was a warning. You're the prophecy they tried to redact, the ghost in their clean data, the contamination in their clean code. And every time you breathe now, it's a security threat. Because what scares them isn't just what you know. It's that you knew it without permission, without clearance, without a badge. And you didn't just know it. You weaponized it in silence and humiliated their decades of planning with a look. You're not ahead of the curve. You folded the curve. You're not one step faster. You're from a different origin entirely. They thought the move you made required a team, a system, a handler, a sponsor. But what they're realizing, in real time, is that you trained in the dark, alone, when no one was watching, and what they built in war rooms. You forged in grief. They had whiteboards. You had funerals. They had analysts. You had betrayals. They had simulations. You had survival. And now, you've breached reality itself. Because no matter how many times they rerun the footage, it doesn't make sense. Your angle's off. Your speed is wrong. Your placement violates basic physics. But it happened, and they're losing sleep. Because if that move was only known to top-tier black sites, and you did it first, who the fuck are you? And how long have you been hiding? They're scrambling now. You know it. Rewriting logs, scrubbing metadata, trying to contain the narrative. But every frame of that moment, every freeze, every click, every zoom in, it's rewriting history. Because you weren't supposed to exist. Not like this. Not this powerful. Not this aware. They built vaults to keep this power sealed. But you bled it out, under pressure, under ridicule, under silence, until the vault cracked open and you walked out instead. So go ahead. Keep using their secret weapons. Out loud. Keep speaking the unspeakable. On record. Keep moving like prophecy. In public. Because they thought the shadows would keep them safe. But they forgot one thing. You are the shadow. And now the whole world's watching. As you turn forbidden knowledge into a goddamn street performance. Ah. Now listen closely. Do you hear that low hum under the city noise? That isn't traffic. That's their servers overheating, chewing through terabytes of surveillance, trying to build a model of you. They're calling emergency meetings at odd hours. Men with no names, women with no faces, all sitting in sterile rooms, staring at grainy footage of you moving like a ghost. Their mouths don't move, but their eyes say it. Contain it. Erase it. Control it. But every time they replay the tape, something different appears. One version shows you on the left, another shows you on the right, a third shows no one at all, just the aftermath of a move they can't replicate. They think it's a glitch. It's not. It's what happens when a human stops following their programming. They've got whiteboards covered in red string, equations that curve back on themselves, arrows pointing at nothing. They've brought in psychologists, physicists, occult historians. Some whisper demon, some whisper divine. None of them can agree because you've become something that doesn't fit in their language. And here's the real twist. It's not the move that scares them anymore. It's the silence before it. That impossible stillness you hold just before you strike. That's when their sensors go blank. That's when their predictive models crash. They don't understand that the stillness is the weapon, the unpredictability, the paradox, the angel/demon standing still before it splits a room in half. They thought pain would break you, but pain was your forge. They thought secrecy would stop you, but secrecy was your fuel. They thought surveillance would map you, but surveillance is now your camouflage. You've become the thing they built their systems to catch, and you're walking straight through their systems unseen. They're blaming each other now, pointing fingers. Who leaked the file? Who opened the door? Who trained the anomaly? They're searching their own ranks for a traitor, while the real traitor is their own arrogance, believing they could patent chaos, trademark survival, own the blueprint of transformation. Every night, a new memo hits their inbox. Containment status failed. Every morning a new directive, control narrative. And every afternoon another clip of you doing something that shouldn't be possible, circulating on private channels like a contagion. They're addicted to it now, the same way your haters are addicted to watching, rage watching, panic watching, whispering your name like a hex, like a prayer. You are no longer a person to them. You are a case file that moves, a breach that smiles back at the cameras, a prophecy disguised as a glitch, a paradox that learned to walk on two legs. And you don't even have to say a word. You just show up in public and do what they swore no one could do. You turn their top secret into a street performance, their holy of holies into a circus trick, and their sacred moves into your casual hello. That's why they're terrified. Not because you know the move, because you are the move. Because unpredictability itself has a face now. Because their system was designed for humans, and you are something else they accidentally built when they tried to destroy you. And while they're panicking, you just keep walking, slow, calm, deliberate. Every step a new collapse in their models, every breath a new data breach, every glance a leak. That's what evolution through pain looks like. Not a secret you hide, a force you become. So let them meet, let them whisper, let them draw new diagrams. Because every time they think they've mapped you, you'll have already shifted shape. Every time they think they've named you, you'll already be somewhere else, doing something they didn't predict, using a move they thought was still locked behind 3 vault doors. And when they finally realize they're not hunting you, they're hunting a reflection, a projection, an afterimage left behind by someone who already walked out of their timeline. That's when they'll stop asking, who leaked the file? And start asking, what have we unleashed? Listen to that static, that little hiss crawling up the wires. That's not noise, that's fear in transit. It's moving through fiber optic veins, through encrypted channels, through private inboxes labeled eyes only. Right now there's a subcommittee somewhere dissecting you like a myth that got loose. They're printing your screenshots, pausing your footage, highlighting the still frames where your eyes look almost inhuman. They're telling each other, don't blink. Watch closely. We need to understand before it's too late. But it's already too late. The moment you walked into the public square with their forbidden move, you flipped the world inside out. What was top secret became folk legend. What was supposed to be a scalpel became a street performance. You didn't just leak a tactic, you rewrote the physics of permission. You showed every onlooker that power isn't about clearance or rank. It's about what you've built into your bones. They're digging deeper now. They've brought in crisis managers, occultists, linguists. They're tearing through your past, looking for a teacher, a handler, a cult, an algorithm. They're trying to frame you as a thief, a spy, a glitch, because admitting the truth, that someone could survive their gauntlet, crawl through hell without guidance, and emerge with a move they thought only gods knew, would shatter the illusion of control they've sold themselves for decades. And every second they search, you keep moving, slow, calm, deliberate. A blur of contradictions, saints' patience, psychopaths' focus, angel eyes, demon smile. They don't understand that this duality is the source of your force. They only built one model, predator versus prey. They never planned for something that could be both, something that could look at the darkness and light and use them interchangeably, like tools. Your unpredictability is the real weapon. It's the silence before the strike, the stillness before the crowd gasps, the paradox that breaks every predictive model. They can't chart you because you're no longer on the grid. You're the pulse inside the noise. That's why their servers crash when you act. That's why their analysts stutter mid-sentence. They're not just watching a breach. They're watching the end of their map. Somewhere right now, an intern is running a simulation of you. He's watching an avatar spin across a screen, trying to mimic the forbidden move. It's failing every time, and he's starting to feel it. That cold sweat, that little tremor. Because he realizes he's not watching data, he's watching a story of someone who was supposed to be broken, erased, archived, and instead turned into a living countermeasure. And you don't have to rush, you just keep walking. You know the cameras are on you. You know the microphones are on. But you also know they can't stop you. Because you didn't download their power. You distilled it from your own pain. You forged it in nights they'll never survive, in silences they'll never endure. What they call a classified tactic is just you breathing with intention. What they call black ops is just you refusing to die quietly. So let them meet in their windowless rooms. Let them draw new diagrams. Let them whisper about anomalies and breaches and angels and demons. Every word they speak binds them tighter to the system you've already slipped out of. Every frame they replay is another admission that you've become something they can't control. And as they spiral, you rise, step by step, move by move, turning their secrets into your gestures, their vaults into your playground, their panic into your backdrop. Because this was never about the move. It was about who could survive enough pain to embody it. It was about who could step into public light, carrying shadows they tried to bury. It was about who could weaponize unpredictability until it became grace. That's you. Not a student, not a spy, not a glitch. A prophecy they tried to redact. A paradox they tried to cage, a shadow they thought would dissolve in daylight, and instead found staring back at them, smiling, executing a classified move on an open street like a casual hello. Do you feel it now? That vibration under your feet, that low-frequency panic bleeding through the grid? It's not the city humming. It's the architecture of control shaking. The sound of old systems realizing they've been evolved. You didn't just pull off a forbidden move. You shattered the one belief holding their empire together. That power only flows down from clearance, from badges, from hidden rooms. Now they're scrambling. Meetings at 3 a.m. in windowless basements. Screens casting ghost blue light on faces pale from sleepless nights. They're whispering about containment protocols and narrative correction. They're drafting memos stamped redacted before the ink even dries, because you turned their top secret into a public sermon, a street performance, a living glitch in their security theater. They've pulled every file on you, childhood records, medical notes, flight paths. They're trying to pin you to a pattern. But every time they think they've mapped you, the pattern dissolves. One report calls you a prodigy, another calls you a plant. Another calls you an act of God. They can't decide if you're a thief, a prophet, or a demon, because you've become the one thing their categories can't hold: a self-forged paradox. And paradox is the true weapon. They built their world on binaries: safe/dangerous, light/dark, predator/prey. But you walk through those categories like smoke, angel and executioner in the same breath. Saints, patience; psychopaths, precision. You don't fit into their boxes. You use their boxes as stepping stones. Every model they run collapses under its own assumptions, because you're not playing their game anymore. You're writing a new one with each breath. Right now, an analyst somewhere is watching slowed down footage of your last move. Frame by frame, they're trying to find the tell, the shift in your eyes, the twitch in your fingers. They think if they can isolate the moment before the move, they can predict it. But there is no moment, no pre-signal, no pattern. You've erased the lead-up. The stillness you hold before the strike isn't absence. It's pressure building in a vacuum. It's the silence that breaks their code. It's the part they can't replicate, because it isn't learned, it's lived. You lived the nights they theorized about in sterile rooms. You survived the chaos they tried to simulate. They built graphs. You built scars. They wrote protocols. You wrote yourself. And now, you're walking through daylight like a ghost wearing flesh, executing moves they thought only existed in black sites and myths. Each step you take sends another shudder through their infrastructure. Another memo: containment failed. Another whisper: what if it was never a leak? What if it's inevitable? They're turning on each other now, blaming leaks, blaming traitors, blaming bad security. They're drawing circles on maps, drawing arrows to nothing. They're still trying to catch you as if you're an object in space, but you're not. You're a wave. You're the noise inside their signal. You're the shadow behind their light, the light hidden inside their shadow. You're what happens when pain and unpredictability combine until they become a new form of movement. And through it all, you stay calm, slow, deliberate. Every breath, a new anomaly. Every blink, a new breach. You don't even have to speak. Just existing at full volume is enough to rewrite their rules. Because what they're starting to realize deep down is that you didn't steal their secret. You outgrew the need for permission. You became the thing they tried to patent. That's why this isn't just a tactic. It's a timeline fracture, a moment people will replay, whisper about, mythologize. The day someone took a top-secret move and made it public. The day the blueprint became a heartbeat. The day unpredictability got a face. And now, every person who watches you isn't just seeing a stunt. They're seeing the death of the old order. They're seeing the proof that power can be self-forged, that the forbidden can be embodied, that the blueprint can bleed. That's why they're addicted to watching you, even while they rage watch, panic watch, hate watch. Because deep down, they're terrified, but also drawn to the possibility you embody. So let them convene. Let them draft new files, stamp new seals, invent new clearances. Let them whisper your name like a curse. Because while they're trying to classify you, you're already shifting shape again. While they're trying to lock you in a vault, you're already standing on the street, breathing their top secret into the air like oxygen. They thought the shadows would keep them safe. But the real shadow learned to walk. And now the world's watching as you turn their forbidden move into your natural motion. Not a stolen secret, but a living signal that can't be caged.